pastries that morning and was still fighting herself on going back for a second serving. Perhaps that was why she would never be a skinny twig, but surely rushing around the cafe all day burned off extra calories. It was a theory that needed more testing, she told herself. After all, she'd only been running the cafe for the last 3 months. I'd better bust that table. Zoe gestured to the table to the right. The customers had just departed, leaving what looked like a sizable tip. I'll help you. Lauren had no idea if she'd be able to run the cafe without her cousin helping out like a butterfly buzzing with caffeine. Zoe had visited one weekend after Lauren had just reopened the cafe, waving away Lauren's attempt to pay her. The cousins had always looked forward to seeing each other at family get-togethers, but since Zoe lived in San Francisco, hopping from one temp job to another, and Lauren had lived in Sacramento, the two of them getting together for a regular catch-up had been a bit problematic. That weekend, Lauren had impulsively offered Zoe a full-time job at the cafe, and her cousin had jumped at the offer. Now they shared Lauren's cottage. Luckily, it had 2 bedrooms, and often explored the small town together on their days off. $10! Zoe placed the tip left on the table in her pocket. I'll put it in the tip jar. Thanks. Lauren smiled. Zoe and Ed the baker shared the tips, Lauren and Zoe reasoning that if Ed didn't make his feather-light pastries, the tips wouldn't be nearly as forthcoming. Since Lauren owned the cafe and made a small profit as well as a wage, she didn't think it fair to take a share of the gratuities. Lauren could bake, but pastry was a bit of a mystery to her. She could make it if she had to, but she was the first to admit that her attempts weren't nearly as good as Ed's. But she was great at making cakes and cupcakes. Perhaps that was part of the problem. Although she was critical of her baking, she was the first to admit if she had made a particularly delicious cake, and she would only know if it was delicious if she tested it. Brr! Annie trotted toward the front door, her gray ears pricked. A man of medium height and in his 40s smiled wearily at the feline. I just need some coffee to go today, Annie, he said. Brr! Annie seemed to nod and then led the way to the counter. Croissants with the perfect ratio of buttery, flaky goodness, plump apricot halves brushed with a touch of sweet glaze and glistening with temptation, nestled on top of light Danish pastry in the glass case. Next to them were several varieties of cupcakes, such as chocolate and raspberry swirl, finished with tempting swirls of frosting. I'd better go and make Steve's coffee, Lauren told Zoe, and hurried over to the counter. I need a large latte today, Lauren. Steve dug his wallet out from his pants pocket. Everything okay? Lauren began steaming the milk, watching Annie make her way to her pink bed on the corner shelf. It was high enough to give her privacy from the customers if she needed it, but easy for her to jump into. It probably will be. Strained lines bracketed his face. His short, sandy hair receded at his temples, and tiny pinch marks on his nose indicated that he'd worn his reading glasses recently. You're not working too hard, are you? She asked, pouring 3 shots of espresso into a big cardboard cup. Steve was a coffee fiend, and she knew he could handle that much coffee at once. I am at the moment. He grimaced. But hopefully things will sort themselves out. I'll keep my fingers crossed. She gazed at him in concern. Steve usually came in every day for a latte, but she'd never seen him look like this. Although, now she thought about it, he had seemed anxious last week. You haven't got too many clients on at the moment? She asked delicately, not wanting to sound nosy. No. He shook his head. Just one accountancy job at the moment, thank goodness. It hasn't exactly turned out the way I expected. You're auditing the church's accounts, aren't you? She handed him his coffee. Yes. He took a sip of his latte, his eyes closing for a second. But I can't say anything more about it. I understand. Was it her imagination, or did he look a little better after tasting the strong coffee? When you're not busy, I'd love to hire you to look over my accounts. He smiled. Hopefully in a couple of weeks I'll be free. Great. Just let me know.